Eric Mallard, well, welcome to the Legends of Motorsport, my oh my, and how much you have deserved this opportunity. And Eric, we welcome you here today with pride to Legends of Motorsport. There's very few administrators in our time in motorsport that have had the length of service that you have. You're a very humble man, you have an amazing career, and we want to talk to that about today because this show today is all about you, Eric. I'm going to go back to 1954. Where you were a spectator at Ardmore, the famous Ardmore circuit. In 1955, you'd moved on to become an official there, but in 1955, you left a hospital in Auckland, having just witnessed the birth of your son, and on the same day kissed your wife goodbye, and you went to Ardmore to work. Tell me about it.
Well, yes, it was to work. I honestly thought I wasn't going to make it, actually. Anyhow, I drove at a pretty good old speed out to Ardmore on the tail of the queue. You know, everyone was already there because the gates opened at 6 o'clock in the morning. Sorry, at 9 o'clock in the morning, but the people were always there overnight and all the rest. But that's all right. So I did that and got back to the hospital in the evening and made amends all around, and that was it. You know.
What were your duties at the circuit in 1955, Eric?
I was a volunteer, like with hundreds of volunteers, and I seemed to get allocated into what we call the spectator marshal division. Bearing in mind, Ardmore had no fences around it.
Yes.
You know, it's the airfield search just like it is today out there, and there's no ARMCO, and the actual demarcation line was binder twine on sticks and all the rest, where the spectators could come up to, type of thing, and
yes.
And they were a fair way back from the circuit, but they wouldn't have stopped many cars. But
I wouldn't have thought so.
No, and so that was it, and I progressed on from there, and I rose up through the ranks because it took a lot of people, much more than it does today, and probably learnt the ropes a bit. I didn't realise I was learning them on the way through.
Yes.
But there wasn't many race meetings either. Like if you didn't go to the Grand Prix at Ardmore, you really had to wait a year for a decent race because it was after the war, and always a shortage of cars around, not many circuits around, a few motorbike races.
Yes.
But that was your lot, really.
Yeah. We were pretty much, we didn't know it at the time, but we were pretty much starved for top-level motorsport.
Yes.
Ardmore drew crowds of 80,000+ for a Saturday, then everybody went to Western Springs on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Who did the negotiations with the overseas drivers at the time?
Well, in the early days, we were just a little bit on Ardmore. Yep. And that was well put together, actually, as it turned out. It came about because one of the little bits of circuit they could get in those days, and it was Auckland Car Club, was Seagrove Aerodrome, which was a fighter sort of emergency station, a bit of seal on it, and they used to occasionally get this off the Defence Department and have a wee race meeting. There wasn't a lot of cars either, and anyhow, one year someone took it over. I think the university took it over, and so the car club got refused permission to use it, and so a lot of pressure got brought to bear here and there, and people who know various members of Parliament, and they said, look, you can't have it, and that's it. But we could give you Ardmore. Would that be any good? And that's how it happened. Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah, would that be any good? So they grabbed that. Yeah. But then they thought, what do we do with this lot? And by the way, this is before my time, but that is the story behind it.
That's the first time. All my years in sport, that's the first time I've heard. So maybe I didn't do my homework, which is pretty much what happened at school. Enter Ron Frost, a very formidable character, UK born, came here to race his Coopers.
Yes, he did.
And he became perhaps the leading light, but beneath Ron, because he was 6 months here, 6 months back in the UK. But you and Ron had a very, very unique partnership.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Learned a lot of Ron. Very astute gentleman.
I'm sure he learned a lot off you too.
Oh, no, it's the other way around.
You think so?
And Ron came here in the early 50s. He had been a motorcycle racer before the war.
Yes.
And got captured at Dunkirk because when they put him in the army, they said, "What did you do, Sonny?" And he said, "I rode motorbikes." "Oh, you're a dispatch rider."
Okay.
And unfortunately, he got caught, and he did a lot of things when he was a prisoner of war also, including becoming the camp forger, because if you escaped, you really needed documents, and Frosty was able to steal these out of the camp office. And so that was a story there. I think he eventually escaped. And anyhow, he came to New Zealand. One part he was in business with Bernie Ecclestone.
Yes.
And he came to New Zealand in the early 50s, and as you say, he had his Coopers and whatnot. And he eventually got the Hillman Humber Agency in Levin.
Yes.
And anyhow, he did that, and then he was instrumental in building the Levin track with Sid Jensen and one or two others. And so that was that. But anyhow, moving on to about 1963 or so. So the Grand Prix had been going at Ardmore for a while, but you know it really needed someone to guide the place. And anyhow, they the then committee managed to inveigle him to come up here and run Pukekohe. You know.
Okay. So
he was a make and shaker man.
Yeah, so we had Levin horse racing circuit across the Tasman. We had Sandown Park horse racing circuit, Warwick Farm, and then we're about to have Pukekohe horse racing circuit again. So we went from horses to cart, well, both.
Yes.
And we all got along pretty well, I think, at the end of the day. But a massive job that you walk and look at a horse racing track and you say, we're going to build a circuit here and we're going to run a Grand Prix here. Where did it go from there? That's a big job.
Well, exactly, and this is part area, and of course, people like the Grand Prix Club, they tried very hard. For a start, they never had a lot of money because they took a fair bit of money at Ardmore.
Yep.
It cost a lot of money to put the circuit together for the weekend.
Yes.
And so they didn't have Motorsport didn't have pots of gold at all in those days, and. So that was the problem there, and they looked around and see if they could get a piece of land suitable. They looked at quite a few, but they didn't have any real sorts of money. And even when they came to an arrangement with the then Franklin Racing Club, which is now Counties Racing Club, they still didn't have a lot of money. But fortunately, they came together with the W.A. Stevenson and Son Limited. Yep. Which are well-known contractors in Auckland, and they sort of footed a lot of the bill. Well, they were able to build the track, so that's what they did.
That's what they did.
And they built the track, and they did a good job for those days, really. And
brilliant.
And built it in very short order, you know. And so there you are.
I can remember that we were living in Wanganui in those days, but I don't know why we were in Auckland, but we were, which was a big deal for us, being Wanganui boys. But they had the car club members going around on the metal to compact it.
They did. Once they got it down, they needed to sort of, let's call it bedding it in, I suppose. It might be the right term. And yes, they had people appealing. The only thing was you weren't allowed to go too fast, but they just wanted tyres running on it. Yep. They did. They had literally hundreds of cars out there.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
Who designed the circuit, Eric?
I'm not too sure. I think Ross Jensen had a fair bit to do with it, and Ralph Grierson and his dad. Yes.
We were really fortunate here in New Zealand because we had the very best in those days, and the list is as long as our arm and back, of, let's call them Grand Prix drivers in those days, that came out here, minus egos in most cases, got on with the Kiwis, went skiing with the Shelley family at Taupo, borrowed bits and pieces off people, and in a lot of cases the cars were sold either in New Zealand or Australia. Not going to happen today, obviously, for obvious reasons. You must have met some really good characters amongst that.
Oh, yeah, wonderful people, and quite a lot of them. And of course, the people of those days quite often were what you'd call today the equivalents of world champions or Formula One drivers.
Correct, yeah.
They didn't call it Formula One.
No.
But you've got to remember the racing stopped, from memory, around about September or October, around about now, and they there was nothing to do. Like in many countries, there was snow on the ground,
Yep.
all iced up, and this was an opportunity to go to the sun.
Yep.
And come to a place like this, and later on Australia, and they also had the opportunity quite often of selling the car while they were here. So that's that was the nub of the thing, in that they could come here, and don't forget there was no aeroplanes, or no aeroplanes to put a car on.
No.
There was a few passenger ones, but the and in fact, you had to allow about 6 weeks to get the car here. So
Yes. Yep.
you had to have the car, on the boat, sort of early October at the latest. And that's the big. By the way, one of the big boosts was come 1956 when the Comet came on online for the people, because it was also took the people ages to get here too.
It was a big job.
That's right. The Comet came online, and it could be, I think, about 5 days or something like that. So that opened the thing up dramatically.
Yes.
And so that's how about. And bear in mind, there were not many racing cars in New Zealand and Australia.
No.
And you couldn't just go along to a factory and around the back door and pay your money and get a car. No such thing.
No.
So they're either the older type cars.
Yes.
Or there might be an odd person who's got a few bob. So you only have to look at some of the photos, and that's very interesting too. Some of them, the cars were pre-war.
Yeah, they were. ERAs and all sorts of things.
That's right.
Yes.
Because the important thing, you couldn't just go along even and buy a car for the road. They were a bit hard to get to.
Yes.
And you would know, being in the motor business where your dad was, how that works.
Well, we had guys like Fred Zambucker in there. We had Johnny Mansell. We had Ron Roycroft. I remember this little man in this big V12 Ferrari with a pudding-basted helmet on, as we know it in those days, and a short-sleeve shirt. The opening laps of the Grand Prix, Archie Scott Brown. We've had some of the very, very best down here.
Yes, we have.
And great guys. And we had, as spectators, I was a kid at the time, probably still am now, but had access to them. There was no holier than thou. I mean, you can't get within a bull's roar of them now, can you, today? Your motorsport management, Eric, with respect, I prefer to call it motorsport management, because administration, you weren't an office boy, so to speak. You were the go-to guy. Wherever there were problems, people would look around. Where's Eric? Where's Eric? Where's Eric? Go and see Eric. It was the way it was. But you handled everything from the office, then at Pukekohe, the famous green bus that we had. You used to run those meetings, a Grand Prix meeting, like big meetings. Let's leave the Grand Prix out, but they were big meetings.
Well,
thousands of people.
Meetings were quite big.
Yeah, they were huge.
Auckland Car Club.
And you had a double-decker bus.
Yes.
The telecommunication system was different.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, what we're doing today, how much more advanced we are with the technology of communication, the number of officials you had there for starters, upwards of 250, 300 people.
Yeah.
Today they run the same meeting with what, 60, 70?
Yeah,
maybe?
yes, probably. Yeah, not, only a fraction of the old days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Any special moments while we're going through here that stand out before we keep moving
really.
forward?
It was a bit of everything. I spent a lot of time, and as time went on, like there was the meetings you said, like the major meetings, and the Benson and Hedges.
Yeah.
And the national meetings, and they were full-on affairs.
They were.
And then then the clubs had their meetings about once a month. On the club circuit, of course, in those days.
Yeah, they were good.
Still race meetings, and much less affair, but a lot of pleasant memories, a lot of good racing, and brought the drivers' expertise up too. Yeah, because they were getting all this practice and all the rest of it.
My next question is, and I need to know the answer to this, because after all the years that I've known you, what was your full-time job while all this was going on? I never knew. I don't know.
No, well, actually, I was in the fruit and produce business actually for a good 10 years or more. Yeah. Until I sold the business, and that's when Ron Frost came along and had heard about it, because he had the really on the floor, and I said to him, "Why are you approaching me?" There's all these other people around too, because there was too. And he said, "But I've been studying you for a long time." He said, "You organise this, you organise that, you put the program together, you write the supplementary regulations. With a bit more expertise, you'll be fully trained."
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So these are skills that were...
I just picked them up.
You picked them up.
So keen, enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's the job that has to be done by X o'clock on that day. I need to be there and work your way back.
Yeah, and passed a lot of these skills on to other people since, many of them.
You have, haven't you? You brought a lot of people up.
Yes.
On the way through.
Including my family.
Yes, you have. That's what I want to come back to.
Yes.
So how did all that start? Was it you want to spend some time with Granddad, you come with me. Or you want to spend some time with your father, you come with me.
Oh, they're all very, very good behaviour. And even when they were quite small, they still wanted to go with Granddad out to the motor races, And in fact, one of my grandsons, by the time he was about 9, he was allowed to be what we call a junior official, and he'd be the runner and just doing bits and pieces, and he'd help me out in the office. And I found him one day. I had to slip up to the bus, as you call it, actually, to see Les Rankin or someone like that. And I came back, and he was in Gamble there. And he said, "I've been waiting for you to come back." I said, "I want to see you." And I say, but he said, "That young lad that's in the office there," he said, "people have been coming into the office, and they ask him for something, and he just goes to the pigeon on, and he gets that out and gives it to him. Another one will come in." It was like a constant stream. Then another person came in and wanted to know what was the rule number for a certain instant in the rule book, which was fairly thick in those days.
Yep.
And it was actually Paul Mallard, who's my oldest grandson, and he apparently just gets hold of the book, flicks it open at the pages, gives it to the bloke and said, "This is the rule number you want. Do you want to write this down or whatever?" And off goes the bloke, and happy as Larry. A lot of people couldn't do that.
They wouldn't.
Not at 9 years of age.
No, today, forget it. No, it's not happening, especially going to a book. They've got to go to a laptop, which is fine. Special drivers you met along the way, Sterling Moss, Ivor Bew, like the Davisons from across, lots of just ordinary guys. Ordinary guys?
Yeah, yes. Yep. Oh, yeah.
Grateful for everything.
There are any great problems. Hey, there's one or two fiery ones here and there, but you just keep you cool a bit. And
long days, Eric.
Oh, long days.
Very long days.
Took several days to get over.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah. So that would be a 5 o'clock start, 6 o'clock start.
The Ardmore ones were very, very long.
Yeah.
For instance, you had to be out of bed at least by 4 in the morning.
Yep.
You're at the track at before 6 in the morning. And here's all these people that have been there all night.
We had the 50s and 60s. We had the Driver to Europe scheme. We've got a lot of young drivers now that they win championships, and in fairness, they look around to, well, why is the phone not ringing? Why am I not racing in Australia or Asia or whatever? Because things have changed. Yes. Life has changed. The Driver to Europe thing was a really big deal. Theo Stanton was the team manager. There were guys like George Lawton, Bruce McLaren, Denny Holm.
Yep.
And we exported, so to speak, a lot of our Kiwis like Howden Ganley, guys like that, that have gone on to punch above their weight with virtually nothing in the back pocket. Just sheer ability, Kiwi ingenuity, grafting. You would have had a lot of officials like that worked with you, that just dealt with situations that most people would go, hang on a minute, where do I start here? They did it.
Yeah, well, that's right. Like in the official side, often they just start off at the bottom, I suppose you could say. And I suppose I did the same.
Yeah, you did.
As volunteers and whatnot. But the cream comes to the top a little bit too.
Yeah.
You get someone, you can usually pick it when they've got something to offer and whatnot. And we've had some wonderful people assist us over the years.
Talking about wonderful people, you've been reading my notes. I think you have.
No.
Margaret Nen, a top-notch secretary.
Yes.
Tell us about Margaret.
Margaret can't seem to come on stream from memory in about the late, it'd be the 50s, wouldn't it? It'd be late 50s. Admiral had been going a while.
Yep.
And she was the secretary for the thing, and looked after the office and etc. And carried through. She was still here, and when they went to Pukakari, you know, and in I don't know, about the 70s, I think she departed the scene. She got married and departed the scenes, and unfortunately, passing was rather young in life, unfortunately.
Yes.
And so that was that.
So how many of you ran the office at the New Zealand, what was then the NZIGP?
Yeah,
Inc?
well,
Yep.
it was still NZIGP today, actually.
Yeah.
And there was actually about 4 of us, you know. Frosty was overseas quite a bit.
Yep.
Because he had a business over there as well, and he was over there for about 4 or 5 months a year, and also arranged the drivers and things, and then he finished up obviously on the FIA as well.
Yep.
And then so there was about 4. There was Elsie Russell there for a long time.
I've got a long time Elsie was there. Yep.
And then, so about 4, and of course a host of very good volunteers backing us up too.
Yeah. So Ron came back. By then, in most cases, the cars had finished the last race. They were getting ready, probably on ships.
Probably,
and
yes.
then, boom, it happened.
They started to get on aeroplanes then.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Amazing year. At this stage of the game, in the mid-70s, you've seen some changes. By then, you'd been in motorsport administration, management, go-to guy for over 20 years. You could see things starting to ramp up again. Or ramp up again. To ramp up, it was becoming more serious. The business model itself was changing. What were the most significant changes you saw in that?
Well, really, as I mentioned a little earlier, there was so much going on as it, and other tracks came on stream in New Zealand. Yep. Finally, because there was very little in the way of tracks. Really, I think the first one I suppose you could call would be Levin, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
And that would be about 1955-ish.
Yeah. Wigram?
Thereabouts. Yeah, Wigram was there. It was an airfield.
Yep.
Just like Ardmore.
Yep.
And but give you a good example. I mentioned things like club circuit and national meetings. See, and they were dotted around the country. So there was something, I won't say on every weekend, but through the summer, quite a lot. For instance, you know, there was 4 full-blown national meetings. Well, apart from the Grand Prix, they was pretty similar as such. You know, there was, I can remember one season there was 14 Formula Ford races in a season. You know, dotted throughout the country.
Yeah.
And same with the various saloons and the all-comers and the big bangers, and of course we used to sell it on that. So really, you weren't just doing one meeting a year anymore. No. You were doing a whole host of them.
So you travelled to a lot of other meetings apart from just the Auckland-based ones?
Yeah, well, I did all the international meetings, and in many of the tracks I became one of their senior officials. You know? Yes. Yeah, and in a number of cases they used to ask me to be their clerk of course. Well, I was working in the sport all the time, and you had to keep up with the rules and that. And I won't mention any names, but there were some organisers, their rules were always running 3 years behind the times. You know? Okay. And so they get along to race meeting and they'd get all sorts of strife with the stewards because the rules weren't up to date. Yep. And they'd get one of those letters, stiff letters on cardboard from Wellington, you know, asking for please explains. And they found it was easy to have Eric there sort of nursemaiding the thing for them or guiding their people.
I can vouch for that because when we were running our events, every now and again, nothing runs perfectly because we don't live in a perfect world. But I can recall on a couple of occasions that you came to me and reminded me of something that was not quite right. We weren't trying to sweep it under the carpet, but you just said, Brian, you get on and do what you're doing. You leave this to me, and later on in the day you would walk past me and give me a wink and go, it's fixed. I didn't even know what the problem was in a lot of cases. But when we shared a drink at the end of the day and you told me, but it all ran seamlessly from where I was, from a promoter's point of view. And you were always, and the go-to guy, you were very much an integral part. You probably didn't know it, but you were a father figure to maybe thousands of officials, thousands of race car drivers. I want to talk to you about the whistle.
I didn't know.
No, you didn't know.
No, I probably didn't know.
You were famous for your whistle, for getting things organised.
Oh.
It was people could stand there and yell and shout to their heart's content and get nowhere. But Eric's whistle, everybody listened.
Yep. Yes, it did. I used to get take the mickey taken out of me on it, but it was very useful because motor race meetings are very noisy places.
Of course, yeah.
And they standing there. I've seen people stand there, and all you can see is their mouth opening and closing, and nothing coming out. But you let out.
It still happens today, you know.
Let out a blast for the whistle. All action goes, you know.
Worked.
Or the drivers know it's time to go, boys, and we're on the way.
Well, in 2015, you'd notched up 60 consecutive years.
Yes.
So between you and Kenny Smith, there's 120 years.
Oh.
That's a lot, and there's only 2 people. Was a sad day when you retired.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I was shocked because I don't know why. I just wrongfully took it for granted that Eric, well, he'll be around forever. He's been around forever. He's going to continue to be around forever. What made you decide to say, did you taper it down and then stop?
I'd been tapering it down for a while, you know. The age catches up with one and
it does.
Whatnot.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot about it, you know. I still retain an interest in it, but I can't do it actively anymore.
No.
Yeah,
but the wisdom is still there.
I didn't realise it was 60 years myself.
Yeah, I've got it down here to 2015.
That's right.
I'm going to talk about accolades. You received everything from a slap on the back to handshakes to a beer of wine at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I'm going to come to the New Zealand Order of Merit and the Motorsport Award of Merit.
Yes.
Personally, magnificent achievements.
Thank
they
you.
came too late. They should have been there a long, long time beforehand. But how did you feel about that? I mean, I know you would have been excited, but how did Eric feel?
One's getting these awards, you know, everything from the Queen's Award, etc., etc. And obviously people had got to go. I found out later, and I still don't know who they are today, but I could take a fair few guesses at about 20 of them. Yeah. And they all seemed to know all about it because when the Queen's Award came through, the phone at home was ringing at 6 o'clock in the morning when they were announced, and I thought, well, hang on, how would they know about it? So obviously these were the people that have put it together. They say if you stay quiet long enough, you'll eventually flush them out as to who did it. But magnificent achievements. They really are unbelievable. I've never asked you this question before. You never raced yourself? No. I've been asked the question quite a few times. Yeah. Always had the interest, and you've got to remember when I was a young fella, the war. Well, in fact, I was still going to school when the war was on. Yep. And later on, you know, the war was over. There was no motor racing, and you couldn't buy a car. No. There wasn't much money around either. And my father had died out of when I was only about 8 years of age. So that made life pretty hard on my old mum. And so, you know, I had the interest. And in fact, the nearest I got to it was doing a little bit of crew work at Western Springs, where a lot of us have started one way and another. Right. Because you used to go there regularly. I used to get taken by my late dad there, and I wasn't very old, I can remember. And in those days, you caught the tram out the speedway on a Saturday night. Yeah, and it was like it is today, you know. But absolutely brilliant, you know. Couldn't get there quick enough. So that was a bit of the festa of it, but never had the chance to, you know, and then one gets married and the house comes first, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Yes, it does. Very important. So there you are. There's that story. That's incredible. I would have liked to have raced, but never did. Never did it? So nearest I get it in my family, I've got a few racing drivers and you have mechanics and you have officials and that. You know, so, and very high profile ones. Yeah, yes, they are actually. Yeah. Any regrets, Eric? No regrets. That's how it's turned out. You got to live life as it comes. Yeah, you do. So you roll with the punches, as we say. Correct. It's tremendous that you can spend this much time from this level of the sport and maintain that passion all the way through, go through the highs and lows and still come out the other side with absolutely no regrets.
That's amazing. That's
right.
amazing. I got some short, quick.
It's really a disease, I call it.
Is it? Well, it's probably. Dad said the same thing to me. He said, "You never really got yourself a real job." And I said, "Well, I can recall my dad giving me lots of advice, some of which I thought was ridiculous at the time, but it turned out to be okay. But he said, find a job you love and you'll never work another day in your life." Is that what you did?
Well, I suppose in a roundabout way, yes, I'd agree with that.
Yeah?
Yep.
There's one guy that I know that you were very fond of, many guys you were very fond of, Laurie Powell.
Oh, Laurie.
Starter
yes.
extraordinaire.
Yes. Again, he comes from Speedway, of course.
Yeah. An amazing guy.
Yes, he was. Bit of an old character and all the rest.
He was.
Yep.
But never got bowled over on the start line, but must have been close.
Don't talk to me about that.
I thought that.
The close shaves around when he used to have Les Rank and the Clark, of course, as a hair standing on end.
Yeah.
You know, low something. Sometimes he'd be halfway across the track.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, if the car was on the left-hand side, the further he moved, the further the car moved over, the further Laurie moved over.
Or if he was starting the race and you were not on your grid spot, he did like he did to Red Dawson once. He'd give him the old wave back.
Yep.
Yeah, on the thing, and as he puts it in reverse, he drops the flag, and they're all off, and Laurie's in the wrong gear.
Standout memories.
Oh,
there's got to be a few.
We haven't got enough time for that, surely.
Oh, I think we've got a little bit of time.
Oh, okay.
This is all about you.
Oh. Well, nothing too sensational.
No.
You know, I've worked with some very good people, and you know, I was talking only yesterday to one of my very good friends. You know, who's an official for quite a while, is Colin Waite, whose sons, of course, are in the racing business. And,
yes.
And you know, wonderful people, and you can learn a lot of these, and they're all dedicated people too. And they're not getting paid either.
No.
You know, it's all for the love of it.
It is. Well, without the volunteers, we didn't go racing, did we?
Well, no, we didn't. And I used to enjoy going around the other circuits, mainly looking after the main race, actually.
Yeah.
Because what sometimes happened when people might come out from England or Europe or something like that, they were always nervous. How was the organisers going, or the officials going to run the race or start the race, and things like that? And I had one well-known driver come up to me one day, and we're down, I think, Christchurch way, and he said, "Eric, you know," he said, "how will he start the race?" I said, "Well, you know the way we did it last weekend, which somewhere else, I don't know, might have been the bin or whatever." Yeah. I said, "No, the format will be exactly the same." And that was the trouble. Oh. You could go to some circuits, and every week they'd have a different format. And of course, that used to confuse the overseas people no end. And and so we got over that. We came up with a format for all the starts, things like the starts. Yep. So whatever you did one week, you did the next week.
Consistency.
You know, if it said it was a half-hour practice session, it was a half-hour practice session at that slot. Yep. Things like that. And that sort of helped immensely. But so, you had to be there to make sure it got done.
Yes. So, yeah, when you started, it was not willy-nilly, and it wasn't...
Well, it was made up.
A little bit,
it was made up.
Yeah, make it up on the day. So you were one of the original instigators, the vision makers that started to put a format in that what happened at Pookie happened at Levin, happened at Wigram.
Correct.
And that would have been not only in the admin side of it, but in the run of the event, the safety side of it, because the safety side of it then was a long, long way away from where it is today.
Long way, and it did improve, but it took a few years.
Yeah, it takes time, doesn't it? It takes time.
It did, because you know they say motor racing is dangerous, and but you know there wasn't the fencing, there wasn't that sort of facilities and the rescue facilities we have today. Absolutely marvellous. Now,
and we had cars and bikes racing together, happy.
Oh yes,
all day.
Well, so they weren't racing in the same race.
No, but see today,
they're on the same program.
Yeah, with due respect to the motorcycle races, you know they prefer not to.
Yeah, but that's right. Yeah,
that's all right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
They are part of the program.
Yeah, that's fine.
that sometimes it's hard to remember all the faces and all the rest. I tell you what, the ones that give you a bit of grief, you have no trouble remembering them. And particularly if when you're maybe doing the clerk of course role, and there's a charge against them or something like that, and they walk in the room, and you look up and you say, "But weren't you here this morning?" or something like.
And the steward's office.
Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you set a level of professionalism, knowingly or unknowingly, as you grew up the ladder, so to speak, that people knew what to expect when they came. There was no shenanigans wouldn't be tolerated. You came, you did the job. We had protests in those days. We had those sorts of things, and we don't seem to get that many now, but they were normally ironed out pretty quick, weren't they? Yeah,
well, the judicial part is improved out of all sight.
Yep.
Not that the officials, I can assure you, well, I certainly didn't, enjoy, we went there to really penalise the competitors, but, the rules are the rules. If they've broken the rules, you must impose a penalty.
Yep.
If they have, if that's the case. And otherwise the sport would be, rack and ruin.
Would it be run by the drivers?
The controlling body, of course, has come a long way too in that ride, and yes, and they put quite a lot of training into what. When I think about it, years ago there was no training per se. The best looking joker got the job. Yep,
you turned up on the day, and it was you and you. So they were sort of, as they turned up, and he came to be a flag marshal, but he could have been a scrutineer, and then he was put out to his flag point, whatever. And they would stand out there all day in the pouring rain, the wind, or sun, or all of those in one hit. No pay, no drinks, no nothing. Just got themselves there, fed themselves, enjoyed the sport, and went home. Amazing days.
Yeah, well,
amazing days.
Yeah, that's right. So it's at a better level, far better level than the old days.
Yeah, but we didn't have TVs in those days. We got them now.
I mentioned briefly there only the safety aspect.
Yeah.
Like when you think of it, unfortunately, people got injured, and and a few people got killed, unfortunately, or etc. And that's improved out of all light.
Yep.
Like you look at the rescue service, look at the paramedics, at all the circuits. There's not only some of the medical people, but the paramedics are there. One part of an ambulance was like 2 stretchers and nothing else in the back of a car. Now they're more like a hospital emergency room.
Yes, they are.
Like you see on TV and all the rest of it. And the paramedics, I believe, in New Zealand, they're as good as anything. And I believe the motor racing might have brought them on, because first of all you had like the likes of Pukekohe, and you had a bit of Western Springs, and St John's in New Zealand anyhow formed a small group of volunteers from their own people called the Motorsport Squad. Yep. And they did the motorsport, whether it be Western Springs or Pukekohe or wherever it was, all the motorbikes. Yep. And of course that squad grew, and those people eventually, they put special training courses, which were quite expensive for St John, and they moved up the ranks. Now we've got paramedics, senior paramedics, and a doctor will tell you they're far better treating a person at these sort of scenes than a normal doctor. Yes, a normal GP. With respect to the GPs.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the cars...
Because they're often dealing with road accidents. And,
they are.
And all this sort of thing.
Sadly,
They're up with the latest technology.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, an ambulance today versus what we had at, say, Ardmore in the 50s, Pookie in the 60s. It's all just part of technology moving forward, isn't it?
Yeah, well it is. And the gear they got in it. See, an ambulance is at least $250,000 it costs. Might be a bit more.
But we need them.
We need them.
And we need those sort of people. They're very special, like yourself, like all your volunteers. It is. One last question, Eric. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
Oh, I don't know. No, can't really answer that.
Well, I think obviously you chose the right career.
I suppose so. Anyhow, I've never regretted it. Anyhow,
that's fantastic. Fantastic. Eric, thank you so much for being on the show. And I know I can speak on behalf of thousands of drivers, officials, fans, people in the motorsport community, people outside the motorsport community that have benefited from your wisdom, your support, your wonderful sense of humour. It has been an absolute privilege to have you as a legend of motorsport on our show. Thank you so much, and we wish you very well in your retirement. Thank you.
Thanks very much.